because Trump didn't go after Rosie O'Donnell until she started messing with his son, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah,
And
and
he's the sexist man that hates women. Oh, give me a break.
let me
So,
say, I'm glad to have you as a guest on the channel because you showed me support when I had like 50 subscribers, and I feel
oh
like I
yeah.
owe it to you to give you
Oh,
exposure to my audience because it's grown so much in the last year when I started this channel back in April of 2018. So
yeah.
I'm
Yeah. I
glad to
think
have you on.
oh, well oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, you surpassed me, dude. You're like what? How many do you have now?
I'm 30.
50?
I'm so close to 40,000. It's like
30,000?
it's painful because I'm like I'm just right there, and 40,000 is a nice little threshold,
Yeah, yeah.
a landmark. And so yeah, I'm like 39,000, what, like hovering right around 39,200. You notice how YouTube changed the way you can see subscribers? You used to be able to see it all
Yes,
the way
see,
down to the
and now
100.
it's just like they'll now they'll just put like the 1,000 and then the 100 mark, and they won't put you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. They just did that with a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it's
And
like
that
weird and unnecessary. I don't understand it.
where they're doing that too, so they can cheat more. Because I just woke up last week, but I didn't even do a video in a week, so I didn't do anything that immediately offended people. And there were just 100 of my subscribers gone again. And a few months ago, I was just hovering over 20,000 subscribers, and then I had a video that made had a lot of momentum, and then I made it to like 25 plus, and then it slowed down again, and now the same thing. I'm just hovering at 25. So
Yeah, it's super frustrating. The same thing happens to me. I feel like every time I upload a video, like as soon as it goes public, because I upload it and then it's private, and then I set all
limited.
my thumbnail, and then I make it public, and as soon as it goes public, I drop like 3 to 4 subscribers before the video's even finished playing. So I'm like, if they disagreed, that would be weird if they just
Yeah, they're
unsubscribed off the
no.
title.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They're doing that on purpose. I don't really
yeah.
think and a lot of times if people unsubscribe, like I'll get they'll comment and go off on me. They're like, "Forget you, I'm done." Whatever, blah blah, blah. And they'll bounce.
Yeah,
Or
usually when you release a video that you think is going to be controversial, you'll already know like, yeah, I'm probably going to lose subs off of this. It doesn't just blindside you. Like you can
yeah,
even tell
totally.
from like how many downvotes you get or comments.
Exactly. I was about to say just the downvotes. Like I'll get like 200 likes and like 5 dislikes, but yet I'll lose 100 subscribers. I'm
Mhm.
like, what? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I took your advice on the BitChute thing. I
Yeah.
mean, I still don't like that platform. It's just not very user friendly, but it's a good backup place to have my videos there. I don't see it as a place where I'm reaching a new audience. It's just a
Well,
buffer. It's like a backup for me.
yeah, yeah, because I just think that like we're in enemy territory with YouTube, right? They don't like what we're doing anyway, so we're in somebody's it's like kind of being in somebody's house, like we're or going to war in somebody else's territory where they literally can just flick the switch and just erase everything you've ever done. So, just make sure you have a another social media channel to go on, and then B, have make your video, like record your videos but also put them on a hard drive.
Yep.
you know just make sure you have backup, just so they'll enjoy taking stuff away from people. They want to devastate people, of course, that are putting their effort in, and they know too, if somebody's built up a crowd and then they just flick the switch, it'll like make them lose
Hmm.
momentum. So you just want to make sure you have your feet planted somewhere else, and people know that there's somewhere else they can go to see you. you know
Yes, super sad. It's crazy what these big tech companies are doing to not even just conservatives. It's anybody that goes outside of the dogma, the mainstream, appropriate, chosen talking points. So you can't, it's not just about being a conservative, limited government, low taxation person. If you're an anti-vaxxer, if you're a flat earther, if you don't like the official story of whatever narrative, you will be silenced. But what do you think about Mark Zuckerberg? I don't know if you heard about this, but he's been having like private dinners with conservatives like Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro, other people who are experiencing censorship and like the outrage mob demanding that people's voices be silent. I think that's interesting that Mark Zuckerberg would meet with them, and then I guess he gave some speech where he's talking about we have to preserve freedom of expression. Do you think that was just a front lip service, or do you think there's some actual like backlash that he's responding to?
I didn't even know that. So he was just seen, like people like caught him like having dinner with these people.
No, I don't know how that surfaced that he had dinner with Tucker Carlson, but some other YouTubers were talking about it. And then I saw the video yesterday. He gave some speech. I don't know if he was at a college or what, but he pretty much said like freedom of expression is something that we have to protect, which makes me think like, but you've been if you
Censoring
truly
people.
believed in that, you would bring back all the people who were wrongfully deleted from or removed from Facebook
Yeah.
and Instagram. So
Oh
put
yeah,
your money
yeah.
where your mouth is. That's kind of how I see it. But the fact that he's even talking about it is kind of weird. I don't understand why
Yeah,
he's.
I'd have to see how this plays out because, it seems like he's saying one thing and doing another, but now, I mean, he also, I guess he's the CEO of Facebook, but there are other people that control him, I believe, and that tell him what to do. So I don't know if he's seeking protection from that, if he really agrees with what, he's being told to do about the censorship. I mean, there's so many levels to it. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But why would, of all people, why would he be you know, um, having dinner with like Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro? Like those are two people. They're just, like Ben Shapiro's a pundit and Tucker Carlson is a journalist. I don't know why. Like, it's I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know. I don't even like why would out of all those people, I mean, wouldn't he try and have dinner with like somebody in the that has to do with the president or something if he's going to really make change? I don't know, it's just weird. So,
yeah. I think for me, like whether or not he intends to follow through on anything he said, whether he said like, "Oh yeah, we should definitely stop censoring conservatives and rigging our algorithms against them," whether or not he follows through or not, he has to know that he will be nailed to the cross for even sitting down with someone. You know how,
yeah.
incivility runs rampant with the left. It's like you
Yeah.
can't even know somebody who's a Republican or a
Yeah.
conservative or a Trump supporter. So I feel like the outrage mob would go after him. So it's just kind of, I guess we will see how it plays out. But
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to look more into that.
yeah,
I had no idea. Have you been watching the Project Veritas videos
yeah,
with
yeah.
the
There's going to be
CNN?
a fourth one coming out.
I
I
know it's
think
coming out no, it's coming out Monday, I think. I'm so excited. It's like summer movies to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good that the information is now documented. We know we have proof to
Yeah.
what most of us already knew and what should be really obvious to anyone paying attention that CNN is absolutely biased. And it's not even, for me, it's not even that they're biased, it's the fact that they pretend that they're centrist and not biased. They're like, we're just objective truth tellers.
Yeah.
That's all we are. We're just calling it down the middle. We call it like we see it. It's like, no, you're
Yeah.
partisan, but there's that piece of it. But then there's also they literally report fake news.
Yeah.
So
It
if
makes
they would
stuff
just
up.
at least admit, like, yeah, we're left wing, then it'd be fine. Because then it's like, okay, you're basically lumped in with MSNBC. You're crazy, but at least you admit it. But instead, what do? They infinity down on it. After this Project Veritas thing got released, you heard nothing from CNN. They have not even addressed it. If you go through their YouTube channel and just scroll through all the videos and look at
Hmm.
how they're titled, Trump or impeachment is listed as like it's worded in their subject line or their title for almost every single one of their videos. Trump is their lifeline. They have to talk about him 24/7, even though there's real news going on. They got to report on everything Trump says and does and tweets. It's so annoying.
But you saw the Project Veritas. It said that Jeff Zucker has a personal vendetta against him. But I mean, I honestly think that there's this guy. Do you know Shiva Ayudare?
Uh,
He's
that
Indian.
he sounds is
You
yeah.
should reach out to him. He's running for Senate. He's phenomenal. But he was talking about I'll send you some stuff when we're done on him. He'll be a good guy to interview. But he was talking about how Trump is like he's like a new rich person kind of, right? He's not the old blue blood too. That's the issue. I one of or not. There are probably many issues that they have with him, but one of the issues is that he's like a blue blood or not a blue blood, right? A lot of these people that are rich, they've been billionaires for centuries, but he's only like a second generation rich person, so he's not in the old school, and that's why they're going after him. But I also think on top of that, Zucker has a personal vendetta against him, and he's not going by their agenda. And this Project Veritas thing, like we said, I'm not surprised. Um, it's great that it's documented, but CNN, I mean, has been, corrupt ever since I can remember. I know at least it was like maybe 8 years ago. There was this newscaster that came out named Amber Lyon. Have you heard of her?
No.
Amber Lyon. So you guys look up Amber Lyon. She came back, or she came out as a reporter for CNN, saying that they were taking money from the government of Bahrain to write basically fake news, right? So instead of uncovering what she saw was going on, they wanted to. They were taking money for them to do good PR for the country. You know,
Wow.
so this has been going on for like a long time, and there are other people that have been coming out, and just not it's just not CNN, but plus CNN pays airports to show their stuff, right? And then you have Cheryl Atkinson, who worked for CBS News, was talking about, like she's being told what to report as a journalist. You're not supposed to do that. So there are other Ben Swan's the same thing. I think he worked for CBS. Do you know Ben Swan?
No.
These are other journalists from other news corporations that have been talking about the corruption within the news industry for years, and they've actually gone off and done their own thing. And I think that they're really solid. They really, of course, you have a bias, right? Human beings have a bias. You try and be as unbiased as you can. I don't think there's any way to really erase that bias totally,
Right.
but I mean, it's getting to the point where the corporations are controlling the news agencies. Like governments and corporations are working together to control the news agencies. And then you look at things like the Bilderberg Group, where all these members of corporations and news agencies, they all go meet once a year, somewhere around the world. They have like a conference, and you get a lot of people that are like servants and waiters and stuff on the inside, like feeding information to the outside, telling what's going on. And this is actually a violation of the I think it's the Miranda Act, where you're not supposed to consort with each other. I think it's the Miranda Act. I don't remember. Not the Miranda Act. I can't think of the Logan Act. I think it's the Logan Act. Anyway, it's been going on for a while. I
Yeah.
think this election has just really like made everything come to the surface. But I mean, I'm not. I don't know. I'm just because I'm older. I'm just like, it doesn't surprise me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I thank God every day that Trump got elected because it caused a global, well, not a global, an awakening in the US. A
Well, a
lot of
global,
people
I
were,
would say.
yeah, a global awakening is happening everywhere. I think it's all connected. But here, specifically in the US, like now I can see so much more clearly than I could even 2 years ago.
Yeah,
When I
for
was
sure.
first awakened, I'm like, oh wow, there's fake news and blah blah blah. But now I'm looking at, I'm like, wow, we really dodged a bullet not electing Hillary. And
Right.
thank God for Trump because I wouldn't have seen any of this otherwise. So
Yeah.
many people are asleep, and with the media, they're fake news because they've been infiltrated by the CIA. I mean,
Hmm.
that's on record. Operation Mockingbird
Yeah, for sure.
is the CIA using the media to shape public opinion. That's how they get public support for wars and
Hmm.
what we see now with this whole anti-Trump tirade that's 24/7. It's turning into action. That's why you see so many people out on street corners protesting. I've never seen so much political engagement in
Hmm.
my entire life. Like everything is politicized, everything's weaponized. We're at a heightened sense of just division, and it's so like rigid, and you can like feel it in the air. You go
Yeah, I
anywhere,
know.
you can sense.
Well, I just came back from Germany a couple weeks ago, and then my last day there, because Berlin is amazing, and I was looking around the city, and it's like the perfect mixture of like old meets new, and it's very progressive in a lot of ways, and very like edgy, and but there's so much of that SJW shit there that I was just like, I could not live here. The last day I met this awesome guy. I'm going to a bratwurst stand, and we're talking. He's like, "So, what do you think of your crazy president?" And I was like, "I like him." He's like, "Me too." He goes, "I just said that because I didn't want any snowflakes to attack me." And we started talking, and he was like, "You don't even know what it's like here." He goes to Germany, because I was also out. There's like a monument called the Brandenburger Gate next to the Reichstag, and they had an rally there, and they had Antifa flags and stuff there. I'm like, in Berlin, and
Wow.
lots of pink and blue haired women all over. Okay, just lots of like of the it. It was just, I was just like, oh my god, this is awful. But yeah, this guy was basically talking about, like, he was like, yeah, he goes, I want a MAGA hat, but he goes, if I knew if I bought one, I'd get my ass beat. So excuse my language, I get beat up. I get, like, I get, like, attacked. And he goes, I really have to watch what I say. But so actually I interviewed him on my channel, and then he's gonna start his channel like next month. He's like inspired, so he's gonna start his channel too. Because I was like, dude, there are a lot of Germans that probably feel the way that you feel, but they're not, they're just afraid to talk about it. Especially, they have Merkel that sold them out. Their prime minister, Angela Merkel, and there's a lot of tension there with a lot of the refugees that are there. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It just goes to show you like where you are geographically will shape how you view the world. Or you could, for example, if you're in Portland, you'd probably be scared to death to walk around with an American flag t-shirt on, let alone a Trump shirt.
Oh, those people are maniacs.
But in Florida, I
Yeah.
could safely pretty much go anywhere wearing MAGA gear because the culture here is much different.
Much.
And
Yeah.
you can tell where politics is downstream from culture. And if culture infiltrates politics, you get stuff like mayors like Ted Wheeler who just let Antifa do whatever. They pretty much run that city. But
But see, that's when I think that there's a bigger agenda going on, when the mayors are just like, when that happened in Berkeley, and they want to talk about Trump supporters being violent. I'm like, are you just not going to act like Antifa just tried to burn down a whole city in Berkeley when Milo spoke? Like, and they were,
right,
do you remember that? And they were setting stuff on fire, and they were like banging on the, trying to, no, breaking up ATMs and just causing havoc, and nobody got in trouble for that. And nobody
yeah.
was held accountable for that.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
what?
crazy. Yeah,
So it
they still haven't arrested the people who assaulted that journalist, Andy No,
Oh,
right?
what?
Yeah, there's still there's
She's
been
still
no
been caught.
arrests for that.
And
Instead,
there's
they
cameras.
arrested Joey Gibson just for standing on the sidewalk. There's just crazy stuff happening in some of these cities, and it just shows you how far apart this country is, how divided we are.
Wow.
Because some people see that as normal, some people just ignore it. They're like, meh, they're just exercising their First Amendment. And then there's other people that are like, no, they're trying to shut down the First Amendment. And
Yeah.
here's why. And it's just, we're so divided. But I'm grateful that we have Trump because it's
Yeah.
exposing and bringing forth all of this truth. All the light is shining on this darkness. We're
Yeah.
in such a like evil place as far as a country where you have things that are being normalized, like what they're doing with kids and how
Right.
kids
Yeah.
are the ultimate pawns, how they're being used. They're pretty much being sacrificed. That's if
Hmm.
they make it outside of the womb. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
everything has been
Wait,
politicized.
they're being sacrificed outside of the womb.
That's true. Yeah.
I
That's
mean, so if
very
you want
true.
to go technically,
Inside, outside, it's just,
yeah. And then they're
it's
also
insane.
being used, like Greta Thunberg or whatever, they're being used as pawns too for their agenda. With the what's her name, Greta Thunberg or
Thunberg. Yeah.
Thunberg, yeah, like that stuff. Poor girl, man. Like, I used to be a teacher, so I love it when my students are passionate about stuff, but she's just being put in a position where she's just being used, and people are going to go off on her. But I mean, like, hey, it's like, if you're going to take a stance like that, your child needs to learn that there are people that are going to disagree with you, you know? So
Hmm.
you can't say, "Oh, how dare you talk to somebody like that? She's a child." Well, she's gonna have to like accept the consequences of guilt tripping people for something she knows nothing about and is factually wrong on.
Hmm.
but they're putting her up. Oh, she's a child. She's a child. You can't, attack or even criticize a child. And they know that people have a soft spot for children, so people are gonna think twice before they, even attempt to do something like that.
Yeah, they use kids as human shields, and they're such hypocrites about it because they bullied Minnie AOC off the internet. She's much younger than Greta. Or what about the Covington kids who got death threats?
What about
Or
Trump's
what
son?
Trump's son? That's another
Like, I
example.
couldn't
They
even think.
don't care.
They don't care. Yeah, exactly. It's so hypocritical. Like that poor little boy, like he didn't ask for his father to be president, and then saying that, that he needed to be like people like celebrities are saying graphic things that he needed to be raped and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like terrible. Like horrible. I don't even think I've heard anybody say that about Greta Thunberg. Like nobody said, maybe there have been people that have made violent threats toward her. I don't know, but as far as I know, I haven't seen anything like that. They just criticize her about being wrong and being used as a pawn, and that's it. They
Right.
don't take it personally. And
Yeah.
notice Trump didn't go after Rosie O'Donnell until she started messing with his son. You
Hmm.
know, and
Yeah. And
he's the sexist man that hates women. Oh, give me a break. This is,
right. They
yeah.
always are quick to criticize Trump for what he says, but all he's doing is punching back.
Oh,
He's
totally.
constantly under attack. His family's under attack. His businesses are under attack. Everything as it relates to Trump is under constant attack. And the gall, the nerve of him to finally say something back and respond, I mean, it's insane the way that these people are blatant hypocrites. They don't even care that we know. They don't care that there are people who see what they're doing. They're like, yeah, what are you going to do to stop us? Look at all these sheep that we have brainwashed.
Yeah.
That's what
Totally.
people are. They're
and,
just
and
so brainwashed.
they take they take, because I realize, I think there's a certain psychology that they're taking advantage of. They're taking advantage of people that are very insecure and don't really work on their emotional issues. So it's easy for them to just watch the TV, especially if they're working and they're overwhelmed, and just, be fed this stuff and just agree, because it's too hard for them to think. It's too much work, and that, I mean, that's the type of people too that I noticed. Even when I was, you know I used to drive Lyft. I don't drive for them anymore, but I used to drive Lyft, especially in Austin. I would never wear a MAGA hat in Austin, by the way. Like, I can go outside of Austin, but Austin is just as bad as Portland. Maybe Portland's worse, but almost there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would, and this is when I was just still like, I didn't vote the first election. I knew Trump wasn't a racist. I didn't buy into that stuff, but I definitely hated Hillary, and I was like, yeah, I'm just over it. Like, I'm not going to vote for anybody, whatever. But the thing that made me really wake up was to see the reaction to, after he lost. And I thought, oh, it'll be just a few days, but I didn't know it was going to last 4 years. I didn't know it was going to escalate. And then as I'm driving for Lyft and started getting back to this, just all of the people that would come in and just unload on me. And they thought that I would think a certain way because I was a black woman. And at the time I had like a fro hawk, and I mean, not even ask me. They would just come in and just start talking about, don't you think? And blah, 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 blah. And then when I would tell them something different, they get offended. They'd rate me down. They get quiet. They get weird, you know? And then sometimes, I mean, I got into an argument with this girl. Like, she literally like got out the car because she was talking about like how it was the Beto rally. That was just torture. Like, having to drive people during the Beto rally. And she was talking about like how she was like for Beto and Hillary because she was for humanity. And I basically said that something was wrong with her psychology because, if you're for these things, why would you be for these people? And she got mad, just like,
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, the truth of the matter is the left, they actually think that everyone agrees with him. They just assume that everyone shares their ideology. They don't realize that they're in an ecosystem of one ideology. They think that if they go from ABC to CBS News to whatever else, they think it's actually different opinions. It's actually the same thing. They're all singing the same song, it's just different tunes. So when they come across someone like us, they just assume, like, yeah, what do you think about that crazy president of yours? They have no idea that you disagree with them. They just assume everyone agrees.
oh,
It's like the most arrogant, narcissistic thing is the
it's
the idea
narcissism.
that, yeah.
The somethingness is just unbelievable. And as I'm driving these people to their gated communities, right? Rarely saw Beto signs in the black communities. It was always the rich white communities where they had Beto signs, where they lived in their excuse me, sorry, their houses that they, gentrified, neighborhoods that were gentrified with their gates around them, with their tall gates, with their door, that weren't like overwhelmed by illegal immigration, that, could find parking, that, their kids were going to a school system where it wasn't overwhelmed by the amount of people. Because I used to teach in LA too for LUSD, and it's overwhelming the amount of illegal immigrants that are coming in. And
Hmm.
I'm not trying to dehumanize anybody, because a lot of those kids were my students and I love them, but it's overwhelming. Do I have something here?
No, no, no. I
So
would,
it's like
no, no, no.
history. Okay.
You're good.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming. And, for anybody, for the students that are trying to learn, for the teachers, but these people that are, that are asking for this, they're not having to deal with this. They're far away. It's like they're super detached. They're up on the clouds. It's like they're Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake. You know about that? That
Uh-uh.
like that's no, you so like I guess the peasants in when Napoleon or Marie Antoinette was like in charge, and I think in France, and the peasants were like starving, and didn't have enough to eat, and she's like, "What? Oh my God! Well, let them eat cake." And like, what the bitch? We don't have the money for flour or eggs. You're telling us to eat cake? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like that
Yeah.
whole like mentality where they're like up here in the clouds and everybody else is down to earth, and they just have no idea what's going on. It's like this arrested development,
Yeah.
right?
They're living in a parallel reality. They're divorced from the real reality. They're just so far away, like you said, up in the hills, completely insulated from the decay that's happening in the cities. When I went to Minneapolis, a lot of front lawns have Black Lives Matter signs and all are welcome here and no human is illegal. They have all these signs. It's
Signs.
pretty much just virtue signaling. I think a lot of it is they're super wealthy. They have been programmed because the thing is, the most educated people tend to be the hardest minds to change.
Oh
They're
yes,
also the
exactly.
most deeply indoctrinated. Like, how
Yeah,
can you change someone's mind who thinks they know everything? They're like, I've read all these books and I'm super affluent and look at me and I'm progressive and all this other
yeah.
stuff.
And
In
I don't.
reality, they're so wrong. They're divorced from reality and they've been programmed to hate themselves. So it's almost like nihilism. They don't understand that it's like the policies that they support and the people they support destroy and harm the people they claim they want to help the most. But because
Yeah.
they live up in the hills, they don't realize they're hypocrites. They may not even know that they hate themselves. There's a reason why some of the richest people in the world end up committing suicide. They abuse
Oh,
drugs,
yeah.
alcohol,
Oh yeah.
etc., because they're hurting inside. They don't understand
They're empty.
that, yeah, it's like literally scorched earth. It's like, well, I hate myself. It's we need to do this and that. We need these radical changes so that minorities can be propped up. And it's because of the way that they've been programmed and brainwashed and conditioned to view the world.
Oh my God, I have so many things to say. Okay, first of all, on that note, have you seen that it's a you can probably YouTube it. It's a documentary. Jamie Johnson did it. I can't think of the name of the documentary, but it's Jamie Johnson, who is the heir to the Johnson and Johnson fortune, right, for the Johnson and Johnson pharmaceuticals. But he did
Yeah.
a documentary on trust fund kids, on him and his friends, and what it was like to be rich and have all this money. Very fascinating. Ivanka Trump is in that documentary before. This is maybe like 10 years ago, before Trump was president. And honestly, she had the best head on her shoulders. Maybe her and like one of the Vanderbilt kids, I would say. Everybody else, broken, empty, lonely, abused drugs, has shopping addictions. Really eye-opening. If you think that, being rich is the answer to your problems, it's not. It was fascinating documentary. I think it's like Born Rich, or I'll send that to you too. But I
Yeah.
wanted to, Mark, can I do a plug for
Oh,
something?
yeah. Go for it.
Okay. So you see these, I don't know if you can see
I,
these. This is the
yeah.
this is the antidote to those signs. I made bumper stickers. You can get them on my website, but I haven't really been promoting them yet because I'm working on some other stuff. But it basically says all lives matter, men and women. I'll just read it because I don't. All lives matter. Men and women have equal rights. Voracious science is real science. There's a difference between legal and illegal immigrants. Where there is love, there is life, and freedom is everything. Because I would see those signs that you're talking about all over Austin. I hated them so much, and whenever I would like pull up in front of somebody's house with one of those signs, I was like, all right, well, I know what not to talk about in this car and this ride. You know, those are like the most radical people. They had those
Hmm.
signs, right? What is it? Black Lives Matter, women's rights or humans' rights, something like that.
Yeah,
Science
all are
is real.
welcome here. Yeah.
There's no human is illegal. I was like, oh my God, you guys are such manipulative little babies. Like I just couldn't. So I based on that, I made these stickers. I don't know. I know I need to promote them more, but you know, it's very frustrating, you know, and
Hmm.
especially since I think the left has a like they've dominated the media, and that's a huge not just like the news shows, but the TV shows. They control the narratives, they control the movies, they control even YouTube, like everything, you know, that the kids are
Hmm.
watching. They're controlling education. And it's like we're Nazi Germany, all but the left are the Nazis, you know, and they're
Hmm.
always, you know, it's like projecting, right? They're always just like, oh, those people are Nazis. No, you're the Nazis. You're the
Right. Yeah.
Nazis.
It's Saul Alinsky rules for radicals. Accuse
Yeah,
them of what you're guilty of. You see it
yeah.
with Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and everybody who claims that they're standing against racism while they're being racist to minorities that support the president.
But
And
I
they're on
think
video. You can see it.
yeah,
And yeah.
yeah, no, but I think the people at the top, they know what they're doing, but the people like under them, they really think that they're doing right, and that's the
Mm.
scary thing. It's like
Yeah.
the road to hell really is paved with good intentions. I don't talk about it a lot, but I've talked about my relationship with my brother, and we're not really on good terms now because since this election, because he went to Berkeley and he has that mindset that
Yeah.
he's told me that, you know,
Hmm.
because he's gone to Berkeley and he can tell the difference between fake news. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I mean I went to college too. I didn't go to Berkeley. I don't know how I escaped that. I'm very fortunate to have escaped that indoctrination. I try and figure out how I did it because I went to San Francisco State, right across the bay from Berkeley, and they
Hmm.
have a huge. I did take a lot of those classes, like the that have spawned like Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, because I wanted to take Black History classes. I was really excited because I you know anything before that in school about Black history I had to learn on my own. I had, you know, family members that would give me books or certain things, but they never taught in school. So it's like when you take these classes too, it's cool because you're learning your history, but at the same time, I remember I had a friend that told me, he was like, be careful when you take those classes, because I've had some friends that come out of those classes and they're angry. And I was like, what?
Hmm.
You know, but
Yeah.
then you are, and I had some teachers that were really cool and were really welcoming to everybody, but I had a couple teachers that were just really hateful to white people. Like everybody was scared of them. You know, they would
Hmm.
just say the most horrible shit, but a lot of the white people would just take it because they had that white guilt, you know?
Yeah. And it started really in Germany. It started at the Frankfurt School. That's where the Marxist communist ideology grew. And they knew that if they could just indoctrinate a generation of people, they could become the useful idiots that Stalin talked about. These are
Yeah.
people that will willingly go to the slaughter. They're pretty much sheep. They're minions. They can be weaponized. All you got to do is weaponize the mind. You can't control the body, but you can control the mind. Like you used to be able to just control the body and that was it. Now they're like, we got to control their minds. These
Yeah.
people are physically free, but mentally enslaved. You
Oh,
see it
totally.
obviously with the black community,
Tell me about
people
it.
mentally enslaved. That's a whole nother topic, right?
All
But
right.
just with people in general, people like us, for whatever reason, the propaganda just didn't work. Like I went to college, I had sociology professors, I minored in sociology,
Did you take
mostly
black
because
did you take black history classes?
no, not in college. Nope. Just I just learned what everyone else learned in school, just sound bites of Black history during Black History Month, and everything outside of that I had to learn on my own. But I had some Marxist professors in college. They were very much against the bourgeoisie. They didn't actually say that, but I still had to read the Communist Manifesto, and a lot of my teachers, professors would give their very obvious left-wing opinions, but I didn't really take it all in. I'm like, that's interesting take, but I think for myself, so I'm just gonna decide what
Mm.
I think. But now you just have so many more people that fall for it. I just don't understand how they can view the world based on how they're told to instead of using their own mind.
Well,
It's because they get an onslaught of constant PR, a lot of just propaganda. They're influenced by athletes, musicians, entertainers. On top of social media, it's just circulating. So, like I said, they're just kind of in an ecosystem of one worldview that is so sinister, evil, and destructive. And there's people like us that are like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want any parts of
yeah,
that. And that's getting darker and darker and
yeah.
darker.
Well, as a teacher, this is what I observed too, because I taught 8 years in the States and then I lived in Taiwan for 2 years, and I thought it would be better over there, but it's worse. And it's like this whole system of like, this test taking, right? And I had a parent come to me when I was about to leave, and she was like, "Oh, could you personally tutor my daughter?" And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like learning English fluently for a lot of people is a way out of poverty, right? And a way to get a good job. So if I weren't teaching, if the kids weren't rich, they had different family members that are working extra jobs just to send them to English school to learn English, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I had this lady come up to me and I was like, oh, well, why don't you send your daughter to a bushy band? She's like, I don't want her to become a test taking machine. And I was like, whoa, that's deep. And she approached me, as somebody that didn't really know English that well. But I was like, as somebody that claims that, you know English that well, you hit it right on the nose, like what's going on. So in that culture, which I would say is going on too with the elite colleges, you have this like kind of like rat race, right? These kids are having to study, they're having sleep deprivation, right? They're having to stay up and take all these classes in order to get good grades on tests, in order to get into this school, and it kind of pushes you into your left side of your brain where you can't really critically think, right? You need your right and your left brain to be able to balance and to critically think. You have too much logic, then you become a robot. You have too much emotion, then you become like emotionally unstable and radical. But it's like it's weird. Like for um for like school, it seems like they're being pushed on the left side of the brain, but their emotions have been hijacked to the point where they can't like make the connection, right? And they're radical. They're still their development has been arrested, where they're just, even they're adults, but they still react to stuff like children. It's really weird. Like they've like cut that disconnect between the both sides of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Does that I hope that makes
Oh,
sense.
that makes that you're
Yeah.
speaking my language. It makes complete sense. And this is why I think I love watching man on the street videos, because you get to see how it looks, right? You're viewing it objectively because you're just watching like Flecka's Talks or Liberty Hangout or something, and you're seeing they're trying to have conversations with people, and you see the people that are just out there. It's almost like they're using like this much of their brain. The rest is 100% emotion and irrational thinking. It's just they're just out there just I'm holding up signs, I'm blowing whistles, pounding drums. They're violent. It's because their emotions have been weaponized. They
Yeah.
let the and people understand that. They understand the people that the higher ups, right? They
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
understand how to use Pavlov's theory of,
Yeah.
you
The
know,
Pavlov's dog.
the
Yeah.
Pavlov dog theory, where it's like all you got to do is get them to respond to stimulus. Stimulus for black people is racism.
Hmm.
Racism, white privilege, white supremacy. If you just use those words, or police brutality, that will weaponize emotions and then it turns into actions
Yeah,
like
it is. It's
Black
like a
Lives
dog.
Matter.
Like
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm allowed. I won't say the word, but I'll say. I hate saying the N word, but I'll say the N word because
Mhm.
on my channel I'll just say it. I don't care. I don't do euphemisms on my
Which
channel,
N
but
word? Germany N word? Just
but
kidding.
I don't know. I'm being respectful, but
Yeah.
it's like people hear the word inward and it's like a bell. I always said, even since I was a kid, like a bell goes off. It's like somebody pushes a button. It's even like if somebody if I'm in a room of other black people and somebody else calls the black people just one other black person, not all of us, like the N word, then all the other black people would like it like trigger everybody else in that room.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Even though maybe that person that got called the N word was act like an N word and needed to be called the N word. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or another black person would have called that person the N word, but it would have been okay. But it's weird. It is like this like mind control thing, right? And
Yep.
one thing I'm glad that my dad taught me was never to be afraid of that word. And I would use it, in context, learn words in context, right? How is it being used, right? Like, it's somebody, using it toward me in a derogatory manner. Are they reading it in a book? Are they like, there are people that will read it in a book or read it in an article and they won't even say the word. They'll say the N word because they don't want to like offend anybody. People like lose their flipping minds, you know?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. And I was looking at LeBron James, and I was just like, I remember he had, it was a few years ago when somebody called him the N word, and he was like crying, like, oh, I've been the N word. That's all those see me as. I'm like, are you flipping kidding me? I had this kid in my class from China. He couldn't speak English, but he can say LeBron James. He loved LeBron James. He didn't like Yao Ming. No, he loved LeBron James, right? But
Right.
he so basically this guy's a god, but he's gonna let somebody call him the N-word. It's gonna make him cry. It's like an elephant that's afraid of the mouse. Are you kidding me? You
I
know?
know. It's the most insane thing. Like
Yeah.
people like LeBron James, celebrities, entertainers, they're puppets. Like let's just call it
Oh,
what
they
it is.
are.
Like you saw it this past week with the
Yeah.
NBA.
Yeah.
These are some of the richest people on the planet. LeBron James sees himself at, like he thinks people just see him as the N-word when if not for every other race, you wouldn't be where you are. Who lines your
And
pockets?
plus, you know what? There
Right?
probably are people that think that about him, but so what? There are
Yeah.
always people gonna think about you. There are people that are gonna hate you no matter what race you are because of what you look like, because you're a woman, because you're pretty, because you're ugly, because whatever, they're gonna hate you. So that's just life. Like people just need to deal with life. Are you gonna let those
Right.
people stop you from doing what you're doing? Or are you gonna cry like a little child because it hurts your feelings? Are you serious, dude? Like
Yeah.
I just couldn't get over that. And thing that's also really rampant in the black community is like people are triggered about slavery. People living now, we never went through slavery, okay? So I mean, the racism and stuff that my parents went through, I can't even imagine. And they're not even racist and bitter, but I've had like family members lynched and tied to train tracks and stuff like that, like crazy stuff. Stories I've heard. I'm detached because I don't really know them, but I can't imagine. Like my mom lived through Jim Crow. My parents are older. My parents are like in their mid 70s. My dad went to school in Colorado, so there was no Jim Crow there, but there was still just blatant racism there. So his
Hmm.
schools were integrated and stuff. He had a lady come up to him at his 50th high school reunion to tell him. She was like, hey, that time that you wanted me to dance, I really liked you and I wanted to dance, but I was afraid of what people would think about. It was a white girl that wanted to, my dad asked her to dance and she was afraid, so she said no. But she was holding that in for like 50 years, like crazy, right?
Yeah.
How
It's
it's that type of racism,
mhm.
is was back there, and now it's just like people are crying today. And I was looking at like all of the nice little like the blockbusters and all of the cartoons and stuff, and I didn't even have that representation of black when I was growing up as a kid. All these characters that they have now, that are with integrated characters and black characters and stuff like that, it's gotten so much better. And I'm just like, these people are crying. Like, this is, I don't know, just it's just mind-boggling. Yet while they're also, I know I was going to bring up, they're also supporting, like, but they have this maniac, or what am I trying to say, addiction to shoes and weave hair that's made by slaves, or that's been, a lot of people's hair, like for weaves, like how black community has exception with weaves. But, people's hair is getting stolen on the black market. These Nike shoes and stuff are being made by slaves in other countries by children, right? But yeah,
Mhm.
they're contributing to slavery as well. So they're no better than the white man, that has
Mhm.
enslaved them, because they're doing the same thing basically.
Yeah, yeah. I try to pivot my message as much as I can away from race. I will still call out the hypocrisy of
Yeah.
people, and I'll call out areas where they're just using racism, they're creating it where it doesn't exist. There are obviously people who are racist, but they've been brainwashed, they have hate in their heart. It's
Yeah.
like this: the racial differences are apparent,
Yeah.
but the concept of racism and meaning of racial differences is taught. That is
Yes.
taught. That comes straight from the Frankfurt School of Thought. It's literally cultural Marxism. The idea that people looking different skin tone wise means that they are different. Otherwise, human beings are exactly the same. We have the same organs, same
Yeah.
fingers, everything is the same. But people have been taught to view themselves differently via race and then attach meaning to it. Like they create this complex where it's white superiority complex. That's why you get your like white saviors like Chelsea Handler, like
Yeah.
black people feel this way. I'm gonna do something about it. I'm gonna put on my white superhero cape. And then you have the insecure inferiority complex where it's like LeBron James, like they call me the N-word, my life is over.
Yeah.
Instead of standing up like and recognizing, wait a minute, there's a certain reaction they want me to have when they say that. Like if
Yeah.
someone were to call me the N-word right now, I have two ways to respond. I can get emotional and punch them in the face and get all mad,
And then
or
you're in
I
jail.
can look at them and just be like, okay, you're an idiot. That doesn't mean anything to me. Like, you're ignorant. I will
Yeah.
call them out
Or
and
you
go
can
on
call
about
them,
my
yeah,
business.
you can call them something else back
Yeah.
and be done,
Yeah.
but then you punch them, then you're in jail. You
Mhm.
go to jail for
Right.
assault.
You
You know what I
give
mean?
them the response that they want. So you
Yeah.
have to
Or they can
like,
sue you for hitting them. They get
mhm,
some money out of you. You're in a worse position.
right.
But no, but you're right. As a teacher, again, I'm gonna bring up the teaching thing. I taught kindergarten forever, and children they notice that you look different, but they don't attach meaning to it. you
Mm-hmm.
know like I had my best one of my best girlfriends, her kid's white, and I had my hair froed out, and she was like, your hair's weird. And I was like, do you want to touch it? She's like, no. But she's a kid, she just noticed it. I'm not like, but like, oh, that's racist. She doesn't
Mm-hmm.
want to touch my hair. And then some kids would just walk up and be like,
Mm-hmm.
touch my hair. But they notice and they're curious about it, but they're not like, oh, I hate you because of this, or I'm better than you because of this. They notice. But
Right.
and I noticed that didn't really started kicking in until about junior high. And I remember I had to teach a story on Jackie Robinson. And then at the end of the story, the kids they're like, oh, I have a question. And I was like, what? And they were like, why were the people trying to hurt Jackie Robinson with their club shoes? Because that's what like the story said. And I was like, oh, because he was black. So anyway, and I'm just thinking they would get it. They're like, what? I was like, no, but because he was black. And they're like, they're like, because I was like, because his skin was dark. They're like, what?
Yeah.
But like, was he bad? I'm like, no, but his skin was dark. Like, it took a minute for it to register. But I think, you know, sometimes you go to certain schools and then people start to figure that out, and then they start to sit with certain people that look like them, and they feel like this is. But usually before that, you know um kid yeah, it's the wonderful thing about children is that they don't really attach meaning. And I'm also starting to think of race also as a defense mechanism for some people, you know
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're living or going to a place that's different and you have an encounter with a certain group of people, then you're more likely to kind of stay guarded against that group of people if you had a bad experience with them, for especially if you're in a situation maybe you don't know the language or the culture. you know I
Mm-hmm.
can, I'm not justifying it, but I can understand why people are like that. And then there's just some people that like are stuck in that you know
Yeah. Yeah. Tribalism, I think, has always kind of been there, but it's been socially constructed in a way that's super duper artificial, right? Like if you think about there's some white people in the conservative movement that they see all of this immigration. They're saying, okay, there's a lot of social engineering happening. They're bringing in people from Central and South America, and they're calling out like, well, look at these ethnicities commit this crime, blah blah blah. But when they do that, they're ignoring the fact that there are Americans here who agree with them that look different. So we're more of a tribe. We have more in common with
yeah
people who are here that believe in freedom and borders and all that stuff than we do with someone crossing the border who looks like us. It doesn't
yeah
make sense to group people based on looks,
yeah
artificial and shallow, superficial qualities versus ideology and worldview. Like, I think people are tribal based on that, not
yeah
more, but they've made us like we've been socially engineered and we've been taught to see that The true differences lie within who you sleep with and if you're a man or a woman and what skin
Yeah.
color you are. And it's like that's what the left primarily focuses on, identity politics and the hierarchy based on that and the promotion of certain policies that need to be implemented based on race. And it's always a zero sum game because you can't give to someone without taking from someone else. That's what they're all about. That's why the
Yeah.
left is inherently racist. I think the people who are on what you would call the right that are racist, they're looking at it, I think, more through a lens of, well, here are the stats, here are the facts, here's what I've been taught, but they're still brainwashed to believe that the true differences are race when it has to do more with ideology. I think a lot of them would get further in their fight to save America if they could just see through that. There's a lot of people. I don't know if you know who Daryl Davis is. I guess he's been hanging out with like Ku Klux Klan members and he de-radicalized them
Oh
and he
yes, I
stores all
love
their.
that guy.
Is
He
that guy not the
like Rose.
20?
He like hangs out, and has coffee with him. He's
That
the
guy is like a
best.
treasure. That guy's
Yeah,
amazing.
you know what? I need to reach out to him. I would love to interview him.
Mhm.
I forgot his name. Thank you for reminding me. I love that guy.
Yeah.
That guy's balls of steel.
Mhm. But you see what I mean? Like
Yeah,
he
yeah.
de-radicalized people who had a lot of hate in their heart. Now, I believe in God and love and unity and all that stuff, but that's doing God's work right there. If you can
Yeah.
de-radicalize someone who has that much hate in their hearts and then they can see you as a human being instead of as a black person or a Jewish person or an Asian person,
Yeah.
I stand with those kind of people more than I do someone who thinks they're doing something good or pretends like they're doing something good by dividing people based on all of those qualities,
Yes,
right?
and you know what? No, for real. And it's just like that guy. I also think that like the racist person that we hear about that's like beating people up because of their race, or it's like they reached a state of like psychosis where their fear is so intense that they feel like they need to do that in order to survive. It's kind of like a fight or flight response where they're like I'm like again, I'm not justifying it, but I think to when you get into the point where you're like burning people and lynching people and hacking them up, you've reached a state of psychosis based that like your fear's been so radicalized that you're just in that state of psychosis. And that can be anybody. Doesn't have to be a Ku Klux Klan member. That can be a gang member. That can be an MS-13 member. That can be, the people that are in Tibet getting slaughtered. I mean, any race. And then you look at
Mm-hmm.
then more slivers are created, not just between the races, but then we have the black, dark skin, light skin stuff in the black race, right? We
Yep.
have that hierarchy. Asians have that too. Asians that think outside the box and want to learn. Like we're called Oreos, they're called bananas. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It's
So it's
crazy.
like, yeah, it's insane, but it really is a way. I think the elite, because I really believe that I believe in the elite, wherever you want to call them, the Illuminati, a higher class, the upper echelons of people. They know they've spent years and years and years trying to figure out how to psychologically, control us, mind control. Go back to Operation Paperclip. Probably been going on before this, but Operation Paperclip, when they brought a lot of scientists back from Germany, World War II, one of their main programs was the mind control program. Through drugs, through alpha waves in television, through,
Mm-hmm.
schooling, through all this stuff. How do you control people? Like the Willie Lynch speech. You know about that?
Uh, Maybe I don't know. Sounds familiar.
So there's a debate whether this really speech really happens, but it's a really good representation of like what goes on. I guess you can compare it to what's going on now, but slave masters had slave consultants that would go around and talk to people about how to manipulate their slaves. So this is a speech that basically this guy gave named Willie Lynch, and he talks about like how to turn the whites against the light skinned slaves against the dark skinned slaves, and the old slaves against the young slaves, and the tall against the short, and any difference that they can find a way to manipulate them to turn them against each other and create division. So they would constantly keep fighting each other and not look at the real master, because when it was like 10 family of 10 to 100 slaves per plantation, like they were vastly outnumbered, so they had to keep them in line by some psychological means in order to keep them from revolting.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's real or not, if that speech is real, but it makes sense. And you can also not just apply it to slavery, but what's just going on in this country today with all the races, you know?
Yeah, it's very true. They have us fighting on so many different levels, not even just race, just left, right, Democrat, Republican. And it's like they're ignoring the fact that like communism is not going to care what you believe in, even if you helped usher it in. The
Yeah.
result for you is going to be the same as someone who was rebelling against it. So it's like if people could just see where the real problem is and who's really pulling the strings, because we obviously outnumber the elite.
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
not I'm not saying we need to, I don't want to say it on my channel, but if everybody came together and saw what who the real enemy was,
Yeah.
well, there you go.
It's over. It's over.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I swing back and forth by thinking, is it over? Is it I think we're at that precipice where we can go either way, we're at that apex of where I think there are enough people that are really awake to facilitate change, but I also don't know if it's enough, and there are people that are awake in different ways. Some people are awake on some issues, but not in others, I don't know. It's really interesting. I am really excited though. I really feel like we are going through a revolution right now, which we need. I'm just hoping it doesn't really get physical. God forbid something happened to Trump. I know that would be a trigger to cause a physical war. Um, and then I'm
Yeah.
thinking, God, like who's gonna come after him?
Hmm.
Did you watch the rally?
The one in Dallas, I saw
Yeah.
clips of it. I saw
Uh,
clips of it. I
it's
need to
like
watch
watching
it.
it's like watching stand-up comedy. I love it. He
Yeah.
just lays into them just like great,
Yeah, he
like
tears into them so bad. And he says what so many people think already. That's
yeah.
why people love him because it's refreshing to hear someone tell the truth instead of give you lip service and be presidential in the process.
Oh, totally. And I
Yeah.
think that like, they're like, he's not a politician. I'm like, yeah, he's not a politician. That's great. That's what's great about him. He's not a politician, you know?
Right. Well,
So,
thanks for coming on the
okay.
channel. I appreciate it. Do you let
Uh,
people know where they can find you? Give plug all
oh,
your
okay.
information.
So I am on my name is Verstine. I don't even think I said my name. I don't say my name a lot in my videos. Verstine Henry. I'm one half my best friend is off tending to her family, but it really is a channel by two people. So I'm taking over for now, but the channel is named Truth or Talk. TRUTHERTALK. You can find us on YouTube by the same name. You can find us on Facebook. Our logo is a little bunny with a hole, like little rings around it, or a hole, like going a rabbit going down the hole. BitChute. We're more active on Facebook and YouTube right now, but like we talked about earlier, we have the backup BitChute. We're on Minds, we're on Steam it too. We're not as active. I guess I'm just waiting to get kicked off. I just feel like I feel like I'm gonna get kicked off any day. Not to be a pessimist, I'm just being like, you know, piss the wrong people off. They're just gonna like flip the switch. So if they do, I'll be on BitChute. And then our website, if you want to buy one of those stickers, truthertalk.com. They're like $5. So anyway,
Definitely. Go
all
get
right.
that
Thanks,
sticker,
Mike.
guys, and
Well,
sub to Truth or Talk. All right, thanks
very
for
cool. All
coming on.
right. Thanks. Talk to you later.
Yep.
Bye bye.